Today I want to go over a quick overview of the basic tools, which are just 5 tools that I use within Clip Studio Paint and other similar programs to make my webtoon, and hopefully this will help you guys also to kind of get past that initial overwhelming feeling when you are opening up programs like Clip Studio Paint and you're like, what is all of this? So let me just go over the 5 tools that I use, and hopefully this will help you just focus on just those things so you can get your webtoon made. So for my thumbnailing process or my rough draft process, I use this mechanical pencil right here. I keep all the settings at default. I just click on it and I draw out the thumbnail. I draw it out. If you want to change the color, you can either go here and change it there, or you can go over here, click that button and change it there. I don't know if I said this, but I am using Clip Studio Paint EX. I will show you guys a couple of free alternative programs that you can also use to make webtoons if you don't have Clip Studio Paint EX. But anyways, let's go on to our next step. Now, the next step after I used my mechanical pencil to rough draft in my thumbnail and also to clean up that same rough draft, I create my panels. Right there. So what I do in Clip Studio Paint EX, I go to layer all the way at the top, I go to new layer, and then I click the frame border folder. With that, it will create a layer mask, so I don't have to worry about staying within the lines while I am drawing. So I'm going to move this layer out of this folder so you can see what I'm talking about. You see how the lines now appear underneath the panels? When I use that frame border folder, it helps me to take away that extra work that I would have to put in to erase everything and make sure everything stays in the line. So that's why I use the frame layer folder to create my panels. Now, to divide those panels, I click over here, I click on the divide frame border. Right here is the direct tool, right here is the frames, and I click on that one. And I could just go ahead and divide it like that. I just click, drag, and then let go, and it slices. So that's how I go about slicing it. Now to move the panels around, I can go and click the object tool, move it up and down, however I want. Next, for the inking, we are moving on to our third tool. Our first tool that for the rough draft we used was the mechanical pencil. Our second tool that we used for our panels was our frame border folder. Now our third tool that we're going to use to ink in our comics, or that I use to ink in my comic, you can use whatever you'd like. I go ahead and I use the G pen. I keep all the settings I keep all of my settings at default. I might change the anti-alias to this one, weak, because I like how it looks, but you can do whatever you want. Anywho, I go ahead and I click my new layer. I use the vector layer just because I like to expand, enlarge, and reduce the size of my panels because I use them for marketing on my social media platforms, and it's just easier for me to expand and shrink without having to worry about the image distorting. But that's going to be for another video. I don't want you getting overwhelmed. This program is already a pretty steep learning curve. Now, for my colors, I actually use that same G pen, but I just increase the size to super big. I go over here to my color wheel and I will select my color, and then you just draw. You start drawing in. I usually make a new layer and I put that layer underneath my ink layers, so that I can draw underneath my ink layers, so I don't have to go back in and redraw the ink layers if I end up coloring the wrong color. That's just personal preference. But I use the same G pen for inking and for coloring. Alrighty, now we are going to move on over to our text tool. So I'm going to click that A. I'm going to click this. Let me just go ahead and type in the word so you can see. There we go. We just added our text. Now the text, or the font style I like to use, is a sans serif style font. It's very legible with different sizes. You can still read the text depending. What am I trying to say? I like sans serif. I can read it on a small screen. I can read it on a big screen. It looks nice to me. I don't know the technicalities of all of why sans serif is so pleasing to my mind and to my eyes and why other people tend to use it, but I just know that's what I use and that's what I like. The fonts that I use, Wildword Romans. I got this back in 2007, I believe, in Felt Regular and Augie. Websites that you can use to get licensing for fonts to use for your Webtoon, and then also, if you don't, they also provide free fonts as well, would be blambot.com and defont.com. They have fonts that you can use for free. You don't have to worry about any commercial issues, and then they also have fonts that you can use for commercial work by purchasing a license for that. So I do have a blog post that covers more about Webtoon font. I believe I'm going to link that below. I don't know. Editing Shireen, please remember to link that below. Now, what am I saying? The fifth and final tool that we are going to be using would be our materials. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click this box here. If you don't see that box, just go over here. You're going to click down to material and it's right here. All that right there. We can click material balloon. It'll take us directly to that. I go ahead and I click dialog. Now I could draw my balloons by hand. I'm keeping it easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm just going to scroll over here, go to default, drag that over top of the text, and boom, I got my word balloon. And there we go. Those are the 5 tools that I use to create my Webtoon. Now, just as like another added little spicy bonus or whatnot, for my backgrounds, I love using 3D models. And I also love just slapping on a gradient or a airbrush. To find the airbrush tool, it's right there. You just go in and make your little gradation. Or if you want to use a gradient tool, you click that button right here. And we're going to use a selection tool so that we can stay within that box. And then, boom, gradient. But I don't want to overwhelm you, so you don't need to use that. But if you wanted to see how I did that and what I used, 2 additional tools that you can use, airbrush and gradient. And for the backgrounds, that's also still in the materials selection section part. Right here, 3D backgrounds right there. Or they also have them in the image material selection of Clip Studio Paint. But you don't need all that. You can still do a whole entire Webtoon using those 4 tools. Let me go back over it. First tool is our mechanical pencil for our rough draft. Second tool is our panel or frame border folder for our panels. Third tool will be our G pen for our inking and for our coloring. Fourth tool is going to be our text. And our 5th and final tool, our materials and our dialogue balloons. There you go. So just focus on those. If you want to make a Webtoon in Clip Studio Paint and you're getting overwhelmed with what you should use, these are the tools that I use. And these are like the basic tools that I use so that I can create my Webtoon. So you can use that tool if you want. Thank you for watching.